1, 2, 3, go.
Hey everybody, it's B&B Banter Bros. This is Aram Banyan.
Timothy Bennett, and I need to turn Aram down. My God,
Ooh.
you're just blowing up over there.
Sorry if I screamed in your ear.
All right. It's okay. Volume control.
Right.
Stop yelling at everybody.
Why are you yelling?
Y'all deserved it. That's why.
All right. So, what are we? Episode 6?
Yes, this would be the 6th episode.
Yeah. So, I think we've circled back to music again.
Yep.
So, I think the last time we did music, we kind of just chatted about kind of the music we were into. Went over a couple questions here and there.
Yep.
Kind of gave an overview of what we were into, but I think this week we're going to get a little more in-depth about some of the stuff we listen to. I know Tim and I talked about some of our favorite songwriters.
Like particularly artists and songwriters. Less about like a whole band and more of a just good lyricists and musicians.
Most definitely. And then we're going to go over the fact that we listened to Abbey Road like we said we would the last music episode.
Yep. Yeah.
I think Tim and I are going to have differing opinions on the on the whole thing because I'm decidedly not a Beatles guy.
I mean, I don't mind the Beatles. I like them, but
I
don't go out there buying their shit either. So.
Right. I personally could give less than a shit about the Beatles. I understand what they did for music, but musically, they don't do much for me.
Yeah.
So there's 1 or 2 songs that I kind of get into, and then the rest is kind of eh.
Well, the thing about the Beatles, though, and I had just told you before we started this podcast, was in school, when I was in school for audio engineering at MMI, Minneapolis Media Institute.
You don't need to advertise for them.
Yeah, well, I love being there, man. It was a great school. It was fun.
Right.
I had to listen to the White Album, and we were dealing with kind of those bands that knew how to play well together and that they recorded live and all this stuff, because obviously engineering, we were learning how to mic shit up and mic shit up properly and all this stuff.
Right.
And the White Album was that master album of theirs. I mean,
well, yeah, I think that's the one everyone thinks of first when they think of the Beatles.
Probably.
I at least in my mind, that's the cover I see. If I ever think of a Beatles album, is the cover of the White Album.
Yeah. Hence why it's called the White Album.
Well, right. It's
but
the easiest thing to think of.
Right. But it was one of those where the band, the Beatles, was a bar band. They learned to play together so well, and they used to just play in bars and stuff before they actually made it big or started making studio albums.
Sure.
But that album particularly was recorded live in such a way that you really saw that they were in tune together.
Yeah.
And then when they did those, I mean, not saying that they didn't do live, recordings on other albums. I know they did for most of the songs on Abbey Road, but
which you can fucking tell. Sorry, we'll get into that in a minute.
But it was one of those things where the White Album was the first album I ever listened to. I mean, I knew the songs, obviously, some of those songs.
Sure.
I probably couldn't have told you when I was a kid, oh, is this the Beatles? No, I mean...
We'll get into it, but there was a song on Abbey Road where I was like, I've heard this song all the time. And I looked at Chelsea, I was like, I didn't know this was the Beatles. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Well, Adam,
Adam,
just call you Adam.
Apparently I've been replaced.
Aram. Oh my God.
Jesus.
That's what I think.
Yes,
of
Jim.
You. Take that.
Take that. How's it feel?
Kind of Jimmy. Why don't we hear what you have to say first?
Roll into it.
Abbey Road.
Yeah, Abbey Road. I started from track 1. This is the first Beatles album I've ever listened to. Again, I'll state I'm not a Beatles guy, but in the interest of broadening my horizons, I took a listen. Come Together is obviously, that's the first track, first of all. That's obviously a classic of theirs. If you don't know Come Together, then you're fucking fooling yourself.
You're living under a rock.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot to say about that. It's a classics. I mean, you hear it everywhere. I mean, even that opening riff is prevalent everywhere. So so I'm gonna move quickly on to the second track, which is just called Something. And I started a bunch of these because they're songs I've heard before. And Something, which now thinking about it, I can't recall what it sounds like, but I wrote down that I found it boring. And a lot of these were just like, to me, and I don't know if it was the time, because looking at it, I think this is, later on in their career, so I think they were on a lot of drugs at this point. This was just like kind of a boring whatever song to me. Like I say, I can't remember the song itself too well. Hold on, I'm gonna look up the lyrics just to remind me.
So when you mean boring, like you personally didn't feel the song, like it just didn't click with you.
It just didn't do much for me. There was a number of songs that were like that on this album for me, and this could just be the fact that I don't care for the Beatles, so like I'm really kind of biased.
Right.
There were some songs that I didn't mind. Moving on from something, Maxwell's Silver Hammer I thought was very interesting musically. Lyrically, it's super dark. Which I found very intriguing because of the way the song itself was very upbeat, but it's all about a guy murdering people and then being caught and executed. And I thought that was super interesting. So I kind of dug that song.
A little darker than you would expect for the Beatles.
Yeah, especially with the way it started out. I was like, oh, this is kind of an upbeat tune. And then like this opening of Bang Bang, goes Maxwell's Silver Hammer, and then they're talking about him like taking it and using it on somebody. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And I was like, did I hear that right? I had to look up the lyrics to actually figure out how dark that whole thing was. Because like I missed bits of it. Because like I was in the car when I was listening to it. And like I got to the point where they were like talking about him being tried. And I was like, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I dug that one. That was pretty good. Oh Darling, which is the next track, I've heard before. And I actually really dig that one. The one note that I did make on it was, didn't they make this a Christmas song? Because I swear the music for it is in a Christmas song. Or at least something very close.
Very well could have. I mean, everybody's got to dip their pen in that.
Well, yeah. John Lennon's done it a couple times.
Right, holiday albums. I despise holiday. Corey Taylor's "Merry Fucking Christmas" is probably my only holiday song.
Right.
But
I don't
good
mind.
reason.
I don't mind the classics. Like I grew up like Burl Ives and stuff like that. Like I don't mind him. But that's because I remember him fondly as a child, like watching Rudolph and stuff like that. So Oh Darling, I thought was good. Like say I was like in my mind, my biggest issue was like, didn't they use this as a Christmas song? Moving on from that is Octopus's Garden, which was a very upbeat song, lyrically very weird.
Mm-hmm.
I think I put a note in, maybe I'm too sober for this song.
A lot of people do relate that song to getting high or tripping on acid or whatever. Which
I can only imagine a number of their songs are about that.
Right. I mean, they didn't hide the fact that they did LSD and shit like that.
Yeah, fucking. Well, they have a song about LSD, so.
What Walk Hard, is that the film where they kind of
Dewey Cox
poke fun at that a little bit?
He's like, well, the Beatles want me to go hang out with them, so I'm gonna go do that.
I think it's
Paul Rudd plays John Lennon, Justin Long is George Harrison, and I can't remember the other two.
Isn't Jack Black in there?
Maybe he's Paul McCartney. He might be Paul McCartney.
I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
I remember just Justin Long is George Harrison because I don't think he says a fucking word in the whole scene.
Yeah, and then who's the black guy in that?
Tim Meadows?
Yes, Tim Meadows. I knew his name was Tim. I couldn't remember his last name. Part of me wanted to say Tommy something, but I was like, that's not the right person at all.
Tommy Davidson?
Yes, that's who I thought it was.
No,
Tommy
not
Davidson.
at all.
I'm like, that's not the right person at all.
Tommy Davidson was never on SNL.
No, he was on Mad TV, I think.
No, he was in Living Color. Phil Lamar was on Mad TV.
It's all the same shit.
I know.
I only watched, for the most part, SNL, and I stopped.
I grew up on In Living Color, so.
Oh, I watched it.
Yeah, I
Homie don't play that.
Right.
That was
I
my
never
favorite.
watched SNL, and I watched a little bit of Mad TV, but
Yeah, I did. Yeah, anyway,
yeah, that we're moving into the wrong territory.
I told you it was going to happen. But they kind of poked fun, yeah, and I remember that.
They poke fun at a lot of things in that movie.
They did.
It's severely underrated, and my favorite part in that whole movie, and I swear to God, I don't know why, is when Eddie Vedder introduces him at the end of the movie, and he's like, "Thank you, Eddie Vedder." I don't know why. I don't think it's maybe just because like he made fun of Eddie Vedder, and I don't like Eddie Vedder's face.
But he's like the face of the 90s.
Well, he's the face of grunge, and I mean,
And the 90s.
yeah, I don't know. There's something about Eddie Vedder's face, especially now that he's gotten older, just irritates the shit out of me.
Because he hasn't changed.
Yeah,
He hasn't changed his look.
It's probably part of it.
He's been wearing probably the exact same.
I swear
shirt
there's an
and pants
actor
since-
that looks just like him, and I don't know his name. But there's an actor that looks a lot like him, except like maybe a little fatter. And he's acted about. I remember him distinctly from an episode of Law and Order SVU.
Yeah.
But
I thought Bradley Cooper kind of looked like him in A Star Was Born, or Star Is Born.
yeah,
He kind of had that.
I haven't seen that
similar,
movie.
but it was excellent.
Yeah.
We're getting off topic
Right.
again.
Yeah,
Goddamn
we did.
movies. Fucking ruin our podcast.
moving to the next song. So we did Octopus's Garden. I Want You. She's So Heavy. I dug that it was a bluesy kind of song. I enjoyed it. I wrote that the church organ in it was a nice touch. Like I said, I kind of dug that
I agree.
one. Here Comes the Sun. Heard that song before.
Very popular
It's
song.
upbeat. It's good background music to me, but like it's not a song I'd go out of my way to listen to. It's kind of boring.
To me, it's overly played.
Yeah, that's
and
probably
it's
the
not
other part
hard
of
to
it.
do with the Beatles songs
Right,
because they're
for sure.
very popular. But that song in general is very, very overplayed.
Yeah, for sure. It's on like so many different movies and
Yeah,
TVs.
yup.
Like, people just fucking pepper it in there like it's seasoning.
Yep,
It's not.
it's the Beatles.
Right.
It's protein.
Because was the next track. It was darker in tone. It felt like it was almost atmospheric to some degree. Again, kind of bored me. A lot of their stuff, it seemed like they were just kind of riffing. I even make note of that later on when
They probably were.
things go kind of sideways. The next track would be You Never Give Me Your Money, which I thought it's a slower song. I thought the music itself was good. Lyrically, I was kind of just not impressed with.
I was a little confused myself. I'm like, I'm not really understanding why this is a song, like lyrically.
Yeah, I didn't care for the lyrics, but I thought the music itself was good. Mean Mr. Mustard, or no, sorry, I missed one. Sun King was boring right off the bat to me, and then the Spanish really threw me off. I got very confused for a second, like what's happening? Like,
Yeah.
not that they can't sing in Spanish, but like,
Why?
it just like it didn't make sense
It
to
almost
me.
broke up the whole album because
Yeah,
of it. Yeah.
it was so fucking weird. And then we get into all these songs where like
Just a little
Mean
blip.
Mr. Mustard, Polythene Pam, I think up until the last track, everything before the last track was under 2 minutes.
Yeah. A little
And-
blip. Yep.
And like the
They
only
were-
one that I really dug was called "She Came In Through the Bathroom Window." I made the note at that point, like, because it was the third in a row that was like a minute something. I was like, are they just riffing? Like, because
Yeah.
they flowed together so well that
They
like
were,
I
like-
thought they were just doing random stuff and just chopping it to make
It was
songs.
like demo. It was demo
Yeah.
songs kind of thing.
Yeah,
Something you
like-
would see on an EP album, not their last studio album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, so like we got through Mean Mr. Mustard, Polythene Pam, She Came In Through the Bathroom Window. Golden Slumbers was one that I had heard before and didn't know it was a Beatles song. I don't know where I heard it. It might have been watching Glee. I might have heard it. And then
Probably.
Carry That Weight was another one I'd heard. Didn't really understand that it was a Beatles song. If you haven't figured out, I don't give a shit about the Beatles. Like, they're fine, but like I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna know all this stuff.
Nothing
And then-
is too profound for you
Right.
in this.
And then we got to the end, and the only note I made about the end song, the song "The End," was we're back up past 2 minutes. Like,
Did you listen to the hidden track?
The little hidden
end?
track, Her Majesty.
Yeah, Her Majesty.
The short. It was fine. Like, it was a nice little ditty. I thought it was kind of cool, but it was like it didn't give me enough time to invest in anything. Like, it was like I noticed it was on and then it was done.
Yeah. So that was originally cut out.
Yeah.
And then George Garris or
George Harrison?
No. The engineer.
Oh, okay. Not the silent member of the Beatles?
No, the engineer. I think George Martin, that was his name, who produced the album. It's way before his time. Well, I don't know about way before his time.
Have you seen the way he looks? It can't be that far before his time.
He was probably a kid. But no, it was George Martin. He was the producer of the album. He put it back in there, I think. And it was just that one thing. I think it was actually George Harrison.
Was it? I thought it sounded like Paul McCartney singing.
Who cut it out. He didn't like it, so he tried to cut it out. Because back then they used actual reel. They used real tape. It wasn't digital. They just
I suppose
it was real tape. So he cut it off, and I guess that George Martin or somebody put it back in there at the hidden track.
That's legit. Interesting.
So, I think he was like the only one that didn't like it compared to the Beatles. There's a couple songs that I guess one person loved it, everybody else hated it.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of vice versa where everybody loved it and one person hated it, and
right
at that point I guess you get vetoed out.
Right.
The majority rules. So
yeah.
But
it's like watching Metalocalypse when they're trying to record that album.
God, Metalocalypse. I haven't seen that.
Not to veer us off topic, but that's just what I think of when they're trying to record on water, and Nathan just keeps dumping out vials of water that are like songs they recorded.
I should rewatch that shit. I hadn't watched that stuff since before I moved up here. Yeah. When I'd be coming home after the bars would close and I'd be drunk or whatever, and I'd watch that shit, Cartoon Network, late at night.
Yeah.
So
Adult Swim.
Yep. That's some memories. Although I'm amazed I remembered anything.
That's all I see is Nathan just dumping out one of the songs he didn't like it, and you hear Pickles go, "Mother douchebag."
What is it, Sven?
Squizgar?
Maybe, yeah. Who's the guitarist? He's the guitarist, and he's
the lead guitarist, and then Toki Wartooth is the rhythm guitarist.
But he was always trying to master that one just mind-blowingly riff.
He's legit always like playing his guitar, except for the point where they figure out that he's like allergic to something, and like he ends up getting it on his hand, so like they like blow up, and he can't play.
And it's very Deathlock.
Yep, Death Clock. Yeah.
Yep. It's been a long. I should rewatch that. That and Frisky Dingo.
Yeah,
and that was before
that was
Archer
the animators of Archer before Archer was around.
So
I don't know if it was the same people, but the animation was the same.
Wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, fucking off topic.
Yeah, sorry.
So your conclusion of this album, you listened to it.
There were some songs that I liked, but again, I'm not a Beatles guy. I'm not a classic rock guy in general.
Yeah, that's true. Like, it's not in your repertoire.
Yeah, it's been one of those things that like everyone has like some point of contention with me about that. Like somehow I don't respect it, and it's like I respect it. I just don't listen to it.
If it's on, it's on. It's not like you'll go change the channel or some shit. It's just if you had to choose something, then
it's not what I go out of my way to listen to. Like
I get it.
Yeah, so that's where I stand on it. Like I say, it's the Beatles, so it's a classic. But and there's some, like I say, there were some songs I liked, but for the most part, I wasn't impressed.
Yeah, definitely didn't make me a
hardcore
die fan kind of thing.
I'm not gonna go out and buy all the albums and buy posters and shit. That's for damn sure.
All right.
Yeah. Where do we move on from there? You want to give your rundown?
Yeah. So I didn't mind it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I actually listened to it twice, kind of back to back, because I wanted to make sure that actually you were talking about those songs that were just kind of like just a blip, like less than a minute or 2 minutes. I was actually confused when that happened. Like, this song just started, now it's over? What the fuck? Is it a sample song? Am I missing something?
That's exactly what I said.
And that's where I re-listened to it. I'm like, nope. I listened to it on a different app or a different format.
I actually had to go into the Spotify app and like look at the actual track to see that it was only a minute and a half long. At one point, I was like, well, that explains why it sounds weird.
Yep. I think I listened to it on Amazon Prime. Secondary. So like the first time it was on YouTube, and I'm like, well, maybe they just fucked up. Who knows? It's YouTube. Right. And then I listened to it on Amazon Prime. I'm like, no, this is legit. This is the song. Yeah. So I didn't miss anything. Well, so the thing about the album, coming back to like from a music perspective of things, not just like being the Beatles and stuff, this was there was a couple things I actually found pretty interesting about the album itself.
Sure.
And one, it was their like reunion album. It was the album that got them back together. I think it was like John and Paul were like, hey, we want to do, actually it was probably John. It was probably Lennon who was just like, we're going to make another album. This is happening. Just deal with it. Right. Everybody else is like, well, I guess we're making another album. Whoop-de-doo. But this is their come together, their like reunion album. And George Martin had to be convinced, like severely convinced to do this album.
Sure.
Because of all the like the turmoil. It was like they were dealing with a lot there. Individually, they were separating as a band, as a united band.
Right.
Because of creative differences. And they were wanting to do their own thing. They had their own sounds. And it shows because half of them had their own solo shit.
Yeah.
And
well, Paul McCartney and Wings.
Mm-hmm. And they came together, and it was actually good. And George Martin was like, this is the deal. I am in control.
Right.
So it's none of this, let's change this, let's change this, let's change this. You're going to let me do the studio stuff, and you just play your freaking songs, and I hit record. That's how this is going to go. Because a lot of the stuff, I guess, working with him before is, like, especially John was a big control freak about how things sounded, and it's whatever. But I guess that was the deal that they made with George Martin to do this album again. And he said it worked. Mm-hmm. This was their last album. The entire album was a lot happier. It was a lot more upbeat and cheery.
Right.
And it's probably because it was their last album, which it was. This was their last studio album, which means the last album that actually came out recorded in a studio. They had a bunch of stuff like hits and maybe rares and stuff like that, but
rarities and B-sides.
Yep, this was the last one. So 1969 is the time that this album was their last album, and
sure,
the they originally was the name of the album Abbey Road was because of that crosswalk. It's crossing Abbey Road to get to Abbey Road Studios.
Sure,
and they named it out of laziness. I guess they wanted to call it Evercast or something like that, which was a name, like a brand name cigarettes that one of the engineers smoked. And they thought, that'd make a cool album name. But they were too lazy and they didn't want to like go to Indonesia to do the album cover or something like that.
Really?
Some lazy, weird thing like that.
Damn.
So they were just lazy. They didn't want to travel somewhere, so that's what they did. And that's why the cover is right in front of the studio. That's apparently how lazy. Yeah. Yep. It's iconic. But after learning about that, I'm like, are you fucking serious? But then I look at most of the things that turn into an iconic symbol or whatever. I'm just like, oh my God, are you fucking serious? But that was the interesting thing I thought about the album itself. They did have some songs, once again, like you said, come together. If you don't know that song, if you haven't heard that song.
You know it even if you don't know it.
Right.
You know it.
And I will be the first to admit I was right there with you. I had no fucking idea it was the Beatles.
See, that's the one I knew was the Beatles. There's like a number of other ones where like I heard it, I was like, I didn't know this was the Beatles.
Yeah, I don't think I at least to my memory, I don't really recall knowing that it was from the Beatles.
When I think I heard the song plenty of times before I knew who it was. And then when I finally tried to figure out who it was, like I figured out it was the Beatles from somebody. But
I feel like I did know, and
sure,
it just didn't stick with me because it's one of the biggest songs I've probably heard by the Beatles.
I gotta believe that's probably one of the first songs anyone thinks of when they think of the Beatles.
Something was a good song. I definitely enjoyed that one as well. Like right off the bat, the first two songs, I'm like, oh yeah, I know these. These are hits. These are songs I hear on the radio and I hear other places, and obviously I like them. Maxwell Silver, the third track, it was whatever. I felt like it just broke it up to me. Like it was like, ooh, two really good songs, and you're just gonna throw this right here. Like I felt like it didn't the flow was kind of disrupted.
I can understand that.
But it wasn't like so bad where it threw me off and was like, oh, fuck this noise. I don't want.
It wasn't like Sun King.
Yeah. Oh, Darling. I like that song as well.
I dug that one. I'm a blues guy, though, so I mean, I would dig that one more.
And I think that was probably my favorite song on the album is Oh Darling. I think I wrote it down to favorite song, Oh Darling.
Sure.
And I've heard that once again just like come together several times. Like I was shocked that this was the album that this was on. I'm like, I knew it was the Beatles, but I'm like, I had no idea what the album was.
Right.
And then you had Octopus's Garden, which I've heard several times. And once again, I relate it to the LSD thing. And I'm like, I hear a bunch of stoners talk about it, a bunch of people who do drugs and shit tell me about, Octopus's Garden. And
yeah, I feel like that's one of those things that like the Beatles and like Fish and Grateful Dead are all shit I hear from the same fucking people. And it's like, dude, I don't care. Like
people who tell me the same shit about Pink Floyd. I like Pink Floyd. I think their albums are fantastic. But I don't need to be on drugs to appreciate it. And everybody's, dude, you have to be on drugs. You have to take the trip. I'm like, no, I don't.
Right. I'm like Dark Side of the Moon. Everyone's like, you got to be whatever.
You got to take the trip.
Why?
Like, right? You got to take the trip. I'm like, I don't need to. I get it.
I don't need an album to scare me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was whatever. It was Octopus's Garden. It was interesting. It was just, to me, it was more of this like, what kind of weird shit can we just sing about?
Just riffing. Like,
yeah. It totally reminded me of B-52s and Rock Lobster.
Sure.
Is this like, what the fuck is this? Why did you write a song like this? Must be drugs.
Right.
I Want You. I didn't mind it. I thought that obviously I didn't think it was like the greatest or anything, but I didn't mind it. Here Comes the Sun. We've already talked about that. That's probably the most overrated song I've ever heard by the Beatles because it was whatever. You never give me your money.
Like I said, the music was good, but the lyrics were just...
I didn't get it.
It didn't do anything for me.
Same thing. And pretty much everything after that, I didn't care. I didn't really... I just didn't get into.
Well, right. And like I said, there was like... It's all like one long track that they just chopped. And like the only one that I got any sort of like pleasure out of listening to was She Comes In Through the Bathroom Window.
Yeah.
That was the only one that I really enjoyed out of all those tracks. Like I say, I'd heard Golden Slumbers before somewhere, but that was the only one that I recognized. Was like, I've heard this somewhere.
Yeah, overall, the album wasn't bad. I did listen to it and I didn't mind it. Right. One of those things I would never like probably go out and buy it. Sure. Unless all of a sudden I become a Beatles fan. Right. Who knows? It could happen. But I definitely never listened to the album before,
right?
And I didn't know what to expect. I did think it was interesting, though, that so the Billboard charts over in Britain are different than, or Europe, I should say, is different than America, but not by much. And this album was one of those. I think I wrote it down because I thought it was interesting. It was number one album in Britain for like 17 out of the 81 weeks that it was on. So
okay,
I mean the math goes, well, that doesn't seem like it's a lot.
That's 4 months,
but
roughly speaking, that's about 4 months of being number one.
But I'm looking at like 17 weeks out of the 81 weeks. I'm like, but it made sense.
Yeah, people
were like, well, right away you're gonna get your best hits, just like blockbuster films and shit like that. Yep. Opening weekend is gonna be your call. That's what's going to make it or break.
Yeah,
the film, and then they kind of pile everything up over the year. But
I feel like at that point it was the Beatles, so like people were probably keeping it up there anyway.
Yeah, so they were like, yeah, exactly. Oh, the Beatles made another album. Oh,
yeah,
I didn't even know they got it back together, kind of thing.
Exactly.
And in the USA, it spent 11 weeks at number one compared to 83 weeks. So we have a longer tread, and they didn't last as long. But
you wonder if part of that is
it's
just
hometown.
Like I was gonna say it didn't make it over here at the same time.
Home advantage.
Yeah.
And yet, what did the Beatles do? they came over to America and just fucked shit up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, people just lost their shit like they did with Elvis. Like,
Yeah.
So, like, to me, I was like, I would think, especially with the population we have compared to London or England.
Yeah.
That kind of baffled me. I'm like, really? It didn't succeed as well over here as it did over there. Makes sense, but I would think because of our population, our size, and all this.
I would gather probably some of that has to do with the church and stuff like that, and the censorship and whatnot. I would assume. I don't know the history of it, and I don't know.
I think it's just because it's home field advantage. Everybody and their grandmother's grandmother is going to buy their album in England.
That's valid.
I guarantee like at least a third of the country probably had that album. So that's what I think about that. I just thought that was a little interesting. I'm like, really? They didn't succeed as well over here. I mean, obviously, it still succeeded.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
But I just, And just to think that it was kind of like, it was a reunion album, I thought was kind of cool, too.
That was very cool. I didn't know that was a reunion album.
But they didn't make another album. That was the last album, too. Last studio album. I don't even know when they broke up or anything. I don't know anything about that, but yeah, that was my take on Abbey Road by the Beatles. I didn't hate it. Yeah. I would probably not buy the album, but if it was on again, then I would give it a go. So we'll have to go back to that generator and do it again.
Yeah, for sure.
For our next music podcast. So other than that, I didn't even ask you how your day was. How was your day? You had to work today, right?
Yeah, it was long.
Yeah,
people calling in sick for various reasons made my day longer than it had to be, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
Nothing COVID kind of scariness going on.
Well, that's why the guy called in, was he had to take his girlfriend and
go get tested.
And to get tested, and he had to wait till tomorrow to get the results. So, and he was my closer, which was the bitch of the whole thing, but
yeah,
was what it was.
Kaylee has an employee that had to get tested. She actually went in today, so Kaylee's having to work, I think, longer shifts now. All mids, too. And she hates it because now she won't see Wesley for more than like an hour before he has to go to bed when she comes home.
Right.
And then like maybe 3 hours before work. So she's quite depressed about that. And I feel for her.
I know how that feels. Like nowadays, like, it's been easier with the COVID stuff, seeing Liam more often, but like before COVID, like most times I didn't get home till after he's in bed. So like I would see him in the morning for a couple hours and then I'd be off to work. And on those off days where like I had the day off with him, like, he'd be up, he's up at the ass crack of dawn regardless.
No sleeping in for you.
No, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock comes around and he's like looking over at me like, "Hi, Dad." So yeah, I mean, I feel that, like,
little disruptive bastard.
Can't you see I'm sleeping? That's right. He's pretty good nowadays. Like if I go out there with him, like he'll watch YouTube or something like that, and like I'll sit next to him on the couch and kind of just doze. Like that was actually one of my favorite things before we got this new couch. The old couch, like we would sit and he would just kind of sit like right next to me, and I kind of throw my arm around him, and I might doze on the couch, but like he'd sit and watch and kind of eat some toast or something like that, and we'd just hang out in the morning.
Yeah, I have. That's what I have to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah.
See what I'm getting myself in. I mean, Wesley already gets up super early. He gets up at 6 o'clock almost every day. Sometimes a little earlier, so it's definitely early. But the way he wakes up is he just sits up, starts moving around. He'll try to stand on the bed, and just plop on us. And that's kind of how he wakes us up. Or he'll just cry. It's one of those two. Sometimes it's a little both. He'll stand up, plop, and realize we're not doing anything, and he'll cry. So
Liam, for a long while, would just get into the bed, either climb in between Chelsea and try to go back to sleep, which was fine. But then he'd start like kicking around and stuff like that, or he'd start fucking with the cats. which was always awesome. The really interesting days are when like he would get under our bed or something like that and like start making noise, and so you couldn't see him, but you could hear him. And when you're half asleep, that's not a great a great way to wake up.
No, I totally understand that one.
There have been times I think there was one time he like 3 a.m. He just like one of those nights where he just woke up and he was under our bed singing to himself. So pitch black in my bedroom. I woke up and there's just a child singing and I can't see the child.
That is creepy.
I don't necessarily believe in ghosts, but I was prepared to start like Chelsea. I've watched Ghost Adventures enough. I know kind of what to do with ghost stuff. So
yeah, that'd be creepy.
It gets unnerving. He's only done the staring at me from like 3 inches away like once, and I think he learned because I almost karate chopped him in the neck.
That's funny. I mean, I'm not looking forward to when my kid starts doing that, but I'll be aware of it now.
Right? Yeah, it'll happen.
So yeah, do you have a music related? Do you have any questions that you saved for next time we were talking about music? I know I had a couple that we didn't quite get to.
I didn't have any more questions. I legit like. You talked about wanting to talk about songwriters and artists, and there were like 4 that I went to.
Yeah.
So I mean.
Well, sweet. Well, yeah. Let's just hop into that. Well, let's start with you then. Let's go.
Well, and then my first couple are going to be unsurprising because I've talked about them before.
Shawn James is one of them.
Shawn James, he, especially on his own, writes just some truly powerful songs like, Pendulum Swing and Flow are just emotionally like powerful to me. And his voice is, I don't know, I think his voice is amazing. Especially when you hear him talk comparatively.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll always be a big fan of his. I'll buy probably anything he wants me to.
If you put something out,
I'll take a listen to it for sure. Like he'll get some stuff from me. His newest album, The Light in the Dark, is pretty good. Got some different stuff on there. Like there's a song called There It Is on there that's almost sounds Motown-y because it's got like trumpet and like he just kind of croons a little bit.
Okay.
But it sounds almost more Motown than it does anything else to me. I could be wrong. Like I might be like talking a lot of stuff out of my ass. I know the newest thing that he's put out is a song called The Guardian because one of his other songs is featured on The Last of Us Part 2.
Okay.
His song Through the Valley is the song Ellie, whoever that is singing when they did the release trailer. She's singing a song, and that's Through the Valley by Shawn James. It's off of his first album, Shadows.
Okay.
Probably actually the first song I ever heard by Shawn James as well. So it's a killer song.
I have a lot of respect for him. We've talked about it before.
Yeah.
So I don't think I feel like I need to
we
dive into that. But
yeah, we don't need to dive too hard into him. But I mean, he's just, if you listen to his songs, he's got any number of songs he touches on, people in the military a little bit. He does a song on his second album for his wife, I believe. I believe he's married. But I mean, like, he does songs that touch on folklore to, like, he does a song on The Light in the Dark called Orpheus, which is Greek mythology. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he kind of jumps all around, and he's just, like I say, his voice is wonderful, and I think his lyrics are just really nice.
Give me a more detailed, example of like a song that you are thinking of when you think of Shawn James as a music writer. Like, what is the song that just pops in your mind and there's that connective reasoning?
So there's 2 songs I'll give you. Flow is off of his first album,
which you talked
Shadows.
about last time too. Yep.
Yep. It's all about being able to just take whatever comes and just keep moving forward. He says, you have to flow like the river. The next song that I would say would be called Pendulum Swing, which is kind of another one along those same lines, but it's basically, saying, I may make mistakes, but it's never gonna stop me from doing what I need to do. Mm-hmm. And it's very the lyrics are much better than what I'm actually explaining. But those are two that like I will always cherish really close. Pendulum Swing has actually moved me to tears once or twice. Just happened to be at the right time. Mm-hmm. Midnight Dove is another one that's a
favorite.
Beautiful song.
To me, it's less about what the lyrics are saying and how it is played and sung that make me fall in love with Midnight Dove. Just the beginning when he goes Midnight Dove, I just get like the goosebumps because it's just beautiful.
Actually, my favorite part of that song is the end when he actually kind of rolls into like he starts strumming his guitar a little harder and like I don't know. That's my favorite part of that song. But the whole song is beautiful.
I like that too. That he kind of brings it back up from being a slower and then he brings it up. I agree. It's my favorite song by him.
Yeah. Essentially, Shadows is
a fantastic album.
It's a fantastic album.
Well-written album.
I believe it's called Insane. It's a very upbeat, up-tempo sort of song comparatively to like the rest of the album. Mm-hmm. And basically talks about wanting to just start over. And that's really all the song's about. Is like he's telling someone, I'm looking around, like people just seem like they're losing their minds. Like, why don't we just go somewhere else and start over?
God, that's what I've been wanting, especially now.
Yeah, take a listen to it when you get a chance. That's actually a really good song. It's completely different from everything else on that album.
Well, you write it down for me, and I'll listen to it. I'll listen to it before I go to bed.
Yeah,
I actually will probably listen to it while I'm trying to sleep because I love, and I've always been this way for as long as I can remember as a kid, as 10 years old when I had my little disc Walkman, my little tape Walkman and stuff. I used to listen to songs while I was sleeping with headphones because for me, it's the only way I could really be immersed into and focused. Like there's nothing else going on. It's just, I am right there. This is all that my attention is. My brain is just on this song.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I do it. If you ever want me to listen to anything and have like something to really respond back to, some kind of criticism or whatever, I have to do it when I'm sleeping or getting ready to sleep. The only problem is if it's too long, I might fall asleep.
Right, for sure.
That's kind of the downfall, but that's the best time that my mind tends to really focus.
The beautiful part is that Insane is actually only 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's a very quick song.
But the worst thing this is the artist in me is the best ideas I have come to me when I'm sleeping or not able to do anything.
I personally, as a chef, I've thought of foods, food or dishes that I want to try, as I'm laying with my head on the pillow and I have to make a note on my phone and so my phone just lights the room up and she's like, what are you doing? I listened to Smile Empty Soul one night. Sure. And this is probably about a month ago. And I haven't listened to him for a while. And I've always been a big fan of Smile Empty Soul. And I was listening to one of the albums. He's legit songwriter in general.
He really knows how to connect to the relevancy that a younger audience, doesn't really matter what age, can understand. And you don't even have to be a younger age. He just deals with the real life situation.
Yeah.
But I was listening to one of his stuff, and this is the shit that, once again, my mind. I haven't written for a long time, especially lyrics. Couldn't tell you the last time I wrote a poem. Probably when I was in school.
Sure.
When I was in college, because I had a course that I had to write poems in. And it was 1 a.m, I think. And Kaylee actually asked me, she's like, why are you on your phone at 1 a.m? And I'm like, I had to write some shit down.
Right. I gotta get these thoughts out so I can sleep.
Now, listening to Smile Empty Soul, and if you don't really know who they are, their style, they are a little darker, pretty emotional and pretty dark writers. but very excellent. And so my mind...
Well, their first song was called Bottom of a Bottle, which is, obviously...
Still badass song.
Yeah.
The badass album.
But
my mind went pretty dark. And this is what I wrote. I've spent too many nights at the bar reminiscing over all my scars, the ones on my knuckles and on my arms, but the one that hurts the most are those on my heart. I've lost many friends and made many enemies, but I never seem to lose the closest thing to me. Jack Daniels and Jim Beam, my closest friends outside of my own demons. I've been talking to the walls and the shadows that creep. I take all the pills because it's all the same to me. I wash reality down with a bottle of Beam, anything I can do to get some sleep. I'm ready for the other side, a place where I can fly high. No more worries, no more lies, no more fucking up my life. I think I'm ready for the other side tonight. If I were to lose myself, would I ever be found? I have nowhere to go, and there's no one around. I've given up trying to stay steady as I'm always falling down, and I see warm light as I know I'm hellbound.
Nice.
It's probably the first time I've been inspired to write anything for a long time.
Yeah.
And it is dark.
Yeah.
Not saying I feel that way, by the way. There's no suicide watch on my end. I'm fine. It's just... I'm creative. That's what happens.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So Shawn James is the first guy. The next guy, another one I think I've talked about, Devin Townsend, who I don't listen to enough of, but I will always love him as a musician. Mm-hmm. I remember being into him early on in my life. In high school, I was into him. The first song I ever heard by him, it was one of two songs. Either Sit in the Mountain, which was off of an EP that he released, or there's a song called Bad Devil, which...
Now, was this any of his solo stuff?
Yeah, that's all solo stuff. No,
okay.
this is all solo stuff. I never listened to Strapping Young Lad.
Okay.
So those are the two songs that I can remember early on in my life listening to, and then I got into his albums. And his albums are all very, very heavy sounding, but the lyrics are not as heavy as the rest of the accompaniment, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I mentioned this before. He's a composer.
Yeah.
He doesn't just write, play instruments, and he doesn't just write lyrics or whatever. He composes.
No, he feels like he just pours everything he has into it. I was reading earlier about when he started doing the Devin Townsend project. Was supposed to be a 4-album set where he was going to work with different musicians every album, and B, it was an effort for him to try and make music without the influence of drugs. Mm-hmm. So it was his first time trying to do something sober. And
which would definitely have an effect too.
Oh yeah, and you can tell if you listen to his earlier stuff versus that, way different. But so he's done that. He's one that never seems to sit still.
Yep,
he never sits in his
stops
laurels.
working.
Yeah, that was one of those things I was reading. He just compiles songs, and then he releases whenever he can. He never lets. If he has to tour or he has to do something else, he goes and does that and just shelves something until he can get back to it.
Well, even when he took a break from music for a little while, what did he do? He wrote a fucking book.
Yeah.
And then he went to do some other music stuff.
Right. He's done a couple cool things. He wrote Ziltoid the Omniscient, which is an actual opera, almost like a rock or a metal opera about an alien. I can't explain the plot of that whole thing. You look it up. But
this is our time.
Yeah, he actually started writing a second Ziltoid, and was just in the midst of writing, but kept having to go do other stuff. And so he's compiled 70 songs that he eventually just released in 2 albums.
It's crazy,
and that's just how he works. He never stops creating.
To be able to just have that kind of mind, I would love to have that kind of mind.
I watched a couple a month ago or something like that, right around the time Corona got really big. He basically, in an effort to raise some money for some charities, he did like Twitch live streams where like he played a concert on Twitch and like asked for donations, and he just raised money for charities that way. And like there was one time I actually tuned into the channel and he was just like, well, I'll just write a song. And people were like saying like, oh, add this or add that. And like at some point somebody said add a fart noise, and he kind of just went, okay. And just like programmed it into his fucking computer. And like all of a sudden he was playing fart noises on his guitar. And like he's always a guy that seems very, despite how heavy and emotional his music is, he always seems very upbeat. Like he always has kind of a if he's not sort of like screaming into the microphone, he always seems to have something of a smile on his face. And I can never fault him for that. Like I always found that really reassuring. And like like I said, just the fact that he's not afraid to try just different shit and not care whether or not people really respond to it. It's not really about, like, I'm sure he likes the fact that other people like it, but it's not necessarily, from what I can tell, about them. It's about him being able to create.
Yeah.
Like he released 2 albums like simultaneously. There was Destruction and Ghost, which was like Destruction was heavy and like very lyrical, and Ghost was like the complete opposite. Like it was all very atmospheric. There's not really any lyrics, and he released them at the same time.
I mean, why not?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like that's the scope of like the way this guy works. Like he can release 2 albums at the same time that are completely different material.
Yeah. Once again, though, he composes,
right?
Because it's, to him, his mind is probably trying to not just function on like one level just to keep shit kind of straight and narrow.
Yeah.
But he's also consistently thinking about what's going to come next. What is he going to do now or next after this?
Yeah.
What song am I going to write? Or the worst thing about being, I think, an artist in general, especially when you're dealing with music, is you will have inspiration from a song you're writing, and you'll have inspiration for a different song or multiple songs. And you can't just stop writing this one song unless you're stuck, maybe. Then you can go work on something else, come back. Most of the time, you can't just stop, especially when you're recording in a studio and it's paid time. You got to focus on that and then make sure you can come back to those other songs that you got inspired for, or whatever, to want to work on. And I think that musicians have that capability. Those professional musicians and songwriters have that capability of holding on to those feelings or holding on to that idea and being able to go back to it.
Yeah.
And I think the only other people that tend to really be able to do that well is writers.
Yeah.
I think writers, like authors and stuff like that. I don't know too many people or too many other artist types that can really stop in the middle of something and come back to something else.
Right. Well,
like painting's a little bit different because it's a visual thing.
Right.
And film is different because, well, once again, it's a visual thing. And music it's all up here, and then you have to be able to take what's up here in your head and know how to play it. But you have to know how to play it up here first. Yeah. To be able to physically do it.
Well, and that's one of those things that, like, I feel like, every time you try to think of it, like the sound changes just slightly, and all of a sudden nothing else you have written makes sense.
Or what you had in your head and what you play is so much better than what was in your head, which is what you always hope for. Right. Oh, that sounds so much better than what was in my head. But yeah, and I think that's a struggle I always had as a musician is I played by feeling, and I consider myself to be the natural musician where I'm not really trained. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. I just play. What comes out sounds good. If I like it, and it works for me. Sure. And I move on. But
yeah. But yeah, so I'll always be a fan of Devin Townsend, regardless of how much I listen to his music. Like, I'll always support whatever that guy does. Yeah. He just seems like a real genuine sort of guy, too, from what I can tell. So I was looking it up. There's this album called Casualties of Cool, which is an album he did with a female vocalist. And if I remember right, when they released it, he tried to keep his name off of it because he wanted it to be something separate from what he was known for. Mm-hmm. because he wanted like he doesn't sing on it very much, like, and it sounds old timey, like all like kind of like oh brother where art thou sort of stuff, like even the cover is like an old timey radio, like in like dirt, in like a pile of dirt, but so I always thought that was very interesting. Like that's just the shit he does. Like there's a song I've been kind of heavy on lately. A song by the band Pendulum called Crush, and basically they released an album of like songs that were redone, but like Pendulum songs that are redone. And his song, like he does a redone version of Crush, and he lends vocals to it at some point. I find it far better than the original.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's those two guys are probably my two tops. Now, if we want to lean into other genres, like those are probably like blues and rock or metal. If we're going to lean into other genres, I had a couple other guys picked out. Great and Square is a rapper that I've been listening to, and is super intelligent from what I can tell. So he does a lot of stuff that like seems like it's very like the first song I heard by him was called Omniverse. Pardon me, called Omniverse, and it's I don't know. It's basically just talking about like it's hard to explain what Omniverse is about, but like he goes on to explain others like to do other stuff. Like, he talks about religion is a big thing he raps about. As far as I can tell, he's an atheist.
Okay.
So there's a song called Stockholm Syndrome that I listen to that he's
interesting.
He basically
I think I already get it.
rips apart religions. He rips apart Christianity, rips apart Muslims, or the
Islamic.
Yeah, Islamic faith, which I can't think of the proper name for anymore. But he's always seemed very. Just reading his little bio. He's a former U.S. Army soldier and Iraq war vet who is also an outspoken atheist who promotes discussion about it through music. So he's kind of a interesting guy. He's not overly vulgar or like aggressive. Like he's actually very laid back from what I can tell.
Fairly passive.
I mean, he just
a little more outspoken in his maybe a little more aggressive in his music.
Yeah, definitely outspoken in his beliefs, but he's not like aggressive.
He's not like attacking, or is it more? Would you?
He attacks it some, yeah, especially in Stockholm Syndrome. Like he definitely
a little more aggressive.
He definitely attacks it, but yeah,
But he doesn't go quite the Eminem route where he's
right. He's not like
he's taking everybody down.
He's not saying "fuck you" to everybody. He's just like, I think at one point he even says like, to Islam, as soon as you release your women, I'll stop releasing venom. Like, and he talks about, the fact like why he's not a Muslim. He talks about why he's not a Muslim is because like, the Prophet Muhammad, is that the Prophet? Yeah, like married, like his second wife was like 6 years old when he was 50 or something like that, and he talks about how that's fucked up and like
dealing with the ages and like the Bible and stuff. Yeah. Just fuck that noise. It doesn't make any sense to me. But
he even says like after that he's like, people try to stay, the times were different. Like, well, rationalizing atrocities. Now you sound like Christians,
right?
So I mean that's the kind of stuff he kind of raps about in that one.
It's really tough when you're dealing with some subjects of that because it's a cultural thing. But when you're dealing with a lot of culture, it's highly built on religious, the religious quo, and
right.
You can't really escape that in that culture because especially over thousands and thousands of years, that's what it's been built on. Especially when you're dealing with the Middle East, when you're dealing with anything from the eastern side. I mean,
right.
I think the only time that you're kind of changing thing is, I mean, I feel like America is the only place that you've changed. The Western religion is just taking a bit of everything. It's picking and choosing what apples it wants to eat.
Like Americans, we're cherry pickers.
Yep, and because if you look at like Japanese culture, highly traditional, highly traditional.
Yeah.
Very respective too. Like you don't disrespect your elders, you don't disrespect your culture, where you come from.
Sure.
That is just like completely taboo over there. And if you do, consequences. And they're not afraid to embellish on those consequences.
True.
But they're also, for the most part, from my understanding, because obviously I've never visited there, you're dealing with a culture that kind of stays on its own.
Right.
They don't interfere with other people's shit.
Yeah.
They're worried about
This is
their
what
shit.
works for us.
That's why they're on That's why they're on an island.
Right.
It's how you interfere, but I mean, anyway, that's not what we're talking about.
And then the last guy I'll talk. But Great Square is just, I think, a very interesting rapper to listen to. He doesn't just rap about religion too. Like he talks about things in general.
He tends to have a little bit more angst when he does, though. It's something that stands out a little more prominent too.
Yeah, like
what he's rapping about.
He definitely has like I think he has just a song straight up called Atheist Rap. But I mean, he does there's a couple of good songs with like Dopamine Notes. Like I say, Stockholm Syndrome. I can't remember the other song. But yeah, he's got a few good tracks. Broken Symmetry is a really good one. Yeah, take a listen to him. He's worth it. I think the last guy I'll talk about is a guy, I showed you him recently, a guy called Bus Driver.
Yep. Very interesting. It was fast.
He's an amazing vocalist. Just like I say, super fast.
Yep.
It seems to me like
I don't remember the song.
It's called Imaginary Places was the one I played for you, but I love the fact that, especially in that song, like it's basically flute, and then he just starts rapping over flute.
It was tough to keep up.
Yeah, he's super fast. He's just he's another really intelligent guy. I feel like he's
pretty eccentric.
Yeah, he's been in a number of like groups before. I think he went to go on his own. Trying to see what other groups he was with. But yeah, he's just another guy that just works on a different wavelength than a lot of other guys do. So I find that very interesting. I don't know a ton about him. I just find him I know he does his own work, and I just find him very interesting.
I think that's something you share in common for sure. Is originality is key, but you're also looking at unconventional styles or if anything breaking the barrier mold, not doing the same thing that you hear everywhere else. That's why I don't listen to radio. I don't want to listen to the radio. If I'm going to get sick of a song, first of all, I am going to get sick of it because I overplayed it, which is hard to do. Yep. I don't want somebody else doing it for me. But that's why I don't listen to radio. Is it's a system. There's a equation, and I already know what it is, and I just don't really care. Right. I can find everything that's on a radio, and then some, on my own.
Liam gets into top 40, so Harry Styles from One Direction has a song on the radio. Liam actually sings the song, and it's kind of adorable.
He's a kid. He can get away with it. If I saw you, I busted back into the kitchen at work and saw you singing a One Direction song.
Hey,
might have to have some
fuck
words.
alone. I'm keeping sane.
I'm gonna return that sandwich.
But yeah, those are some of the guys that I think are super interesting. I think they're legit songwriters and worth checking out.
Yeah, that's what's up. I mean, I obviously knew myself. It was going to be Shawn James and
and those
Devin
guys
Townsend.
I will. Like I say, I've been fans for a long time of Devin Townsend. Not quite as long as Shawn James, but I preach about him to anyone I can get to listen to him. So,
I think you showed me Shawn James, and I think I had one of their songs, and it probably was like Midnight Dove or something. Mm-hmm. And I think, were shocked at the time that you were trying to show me Shawn James. I'm like, oh, this sounds familiar. And then I played you the thing I thought it was. And you're like, yep, that's him. I'm like, oh, we're on the same page. Because that's when we were going through our modern bluegrass indie kind of phase. We were, I think it was 3 years ago. So I was at my apartment with Devin. So yeah,
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, right around our D&D time.
Yeah, just coming up again.
Yeah, hopefully.
I got Sunday off. You don't fucking cancel on me.
I'm not gonna cancel. If it's just gonna be me and you, I'm doing it. We'll do it.
That's fine.
We'll start it. It'll be a one-on-one session. So you will
Ken and
die
I throwing dice at each other.
No, I'm excited. Dude, I've worked too hard. I was telling Dreads this when he stopped by the other day. I was like, I need you to play because I spend way too much fucking time on this goddamn thing. I'm getting super detailed.
I hope more people show up. Like, I really do. But yeah, I'm just stoked to play.
Yeah.
Even if it's just me and Dreads fucking rolling through, like, that's fine.
And I don't think Dreads is going to be here physically. I think he's going to be on the
Skype in.
yeah,
it's fine. Like, that works.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, I'm stoked either way.
He might be willing to come over
if it's just going to be
you, because his whole thing is he just can't get sick. If he gets sick, he could die,
right?
Or he could bring it home and his mom could die because she's fairly ill. She's gotten better, but she's fairly ill. So.
Yeah, I was just saying. I don't blame his mom was sick.
Yep, I don't blame him. I don't 100% respect it. I'm totally
do what you got to do, but
right?
don't fuck up my D&D thing.
Right, that's all I said. He just needs to play.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, like I say, that's why I texted you last night because I was like, shit, I got to write my backstory. I got to finish it. I had to go buy note cards today so I can write my fucking spells down.
Did you? Because, I mean, I could have given you some.
Oh, I paid like $1 for them, so it's nice.
Oh.
It's fine.
Well, that's what's up. So those are
my guys. So Shawn James, Devin Townsend, Bus Driver, and Graydon Square.
Yeah, definitely give them a shot. Yeah. Especially if you're just looking for something new. Now, you said Bus Driver and what was the other guy?
Graydon Square.
Yeah, our hip hop artist.
Yeah.
And then you have
Devin Townsend is probably more like industrial metal. Would be the closest thing. Well, Strapping Young Lad was considered industrial, so that's kind of where I lump Devin. But I mean, even he's just sort of like he's very heavy sounding. So
I almost lump him in with like Meshuggah.
Yeah.
I
that
think
he's produced the Meshuggah album.
Yeah, that's kind of like that kind of stuff is what I think of when I think of.
For sure. He's definitely heavier.
Yeah, but he's also like a little bit more theatrical with his music. Not necessarily a stage, or I have no idea, but like his music is a little bit more of a. It's a stretch. It's a little longer.
There's a flow to it. And
yep.
For sure. And then Shawn James, I mean, is a good just straight blues
metal.
Yeah. Well, Shawn James and the Shapeshifters would probably be the blues metal.
It's the same thing.
If you listen to just Shawn James, like it's gonna be softer.
Oh, it's gonna be softer. It's gonna be more blues, folky.
Yeah,
because he mainly plays a lot of acoustic.
There's a lot of acoustic guitar. Usually has like a hi hat or something with him, and then he usually has like a guy that plays the mandolin.
Yeah.
But and a violinist sometimes.
Yeah, but Aram is right that Shawn James and the Shapeshifters is blues metal essentially.
Yeah,
and it's badass.
Yeah,
it's great stuff.
It's there's another band. If you listen to Shawn James and the Shapeshifters, there's another band called the Native Howl, which refer to themselves as thrash grass. Nice. Which they're fun to listen to. I would almost equate Shawn James and the Shapeshifter closer to that than I would blues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are my guys. Who you got?
Well,
Corey Taylor?
No.
Oh.
No, he's not on there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Corey Taylor, but I don't think he's not on the top list of songwriters, artists that I,
Interesting. Okay.
would boast about. Like I mean, I have a couple for sure, but the first one that sticks to me the most when I think about songwriters is Justin Furstenfeld. I think that's how you say his last name, Furstenfeld. He is the lead singer and vocalist and founder of the alternative rock band Blue October.
Oh, okay.
And I'm a huge Blue October fan.
Yeah, I remember you being a big...
Yep,
I've liked a lot of the stuff I've listened to, but I've never been like super into them.
I love them. Absolutely love them. And I'm not saying every single song of theirs is fantastic or wonderful.
Sure. No, I mean, even our favorite artists can have duds.
Yep. But Justin is one of those people. He's a very unique breed. And the number one thing that just impresses me and still to this day just blows my mind is he's one of the few singers out there that sings with his emotions. You're not just hearing the lyrics and listening to the music and finding that connective. He's making you feel what he felt when he was writing this shit. And he's one of those that he knows how to take what's up in his head and put it down on paper and create that mood, create that scene. I've called him like oh crap, who's the painter, that splatter painter?
Jackson Pollock.
Yes, the Jackson Pollock and William Shakespeare of like music. Because the dude, the way he swings words, the things that he collects and finds to put can be completely bizarre. Like, wow, that's a weird phrase or weird sentence or whatever, but he makes it work and it's so appropriate. Like one of the songs that he has is was it Babe, You're Like a Car Crash? I think it's called Car Crash. But the lyrics go like, Babe, you're like a car crash. You know what? I'm just going to freaking find it.
That's like we both got computers. We can look this shit up.
Right. I don't know why I'm trying to do it by memory. My memory's shot over the years.
It's called getting old, Tim.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't want to get old. It doesn't make me feel good. Realizing my mortality is just right around the corner any moment now. It's off of their... Actually, I think they're coming out with a new album, so I can't even say it's their last album. But it's off of their I Hope You're Happy album, which is at least an album that came out 2 years ago.
I didn't even know they released that.
Yeah.
I only knew of like 2 albums that they released, and that was the 2 that had like actual radio hits, like Hate Me and Into the Ocean were from Foiled, and I don't remember the one
that is their biggest album.
Yeah, and then there was one that had the song Dirt Room, I believe.
And that was their second. That was the album after that, which was...
Right. I can't remember what it's called, but those are the only 2 albums I knew of by them.
So Your Love Is Like a Car Crash. That's the name of the song. And the lyrics are pretty interesting. It's definitely not one of those songs that I would say is profound by any means, but he has a couple of lines like, here's the chorus is, your love is like a car crash, babe, you're moving too fast, you're a hit and run, your love is like a car crash, leave me with my heart smashed, you're a hit run. But he has a song that says, you're a glass of sexy lemonade, or here it is, you're a sexy glass of lemonade, and I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say that, you dirty jaguar, chew me up. And I'm just like, what? But it works. But it works. I don't know. Either way, he has some songs. Hate Me is their biggest hit ever. Mm-hmm. And it is such a profound song. And it's not like philosophically profound. It's like internally.
It's emotionally profound.
It's emotionally and internally philosophically, but it's not like, one of those songs where, oh my God, it's going to change my life. I mean, it may. Because of how fucked up he's saying he is in that song. And the entire song is him talking about how horrible of a human being he was to his mother. Yeah. All the shit he did, all the drugs, all the whatever, the shit that he had done to put his mother through all that crap, and she still loves him unconditionally. Yeah. And he's pretty much saying is like, you don't deserve that. Why you should hate me. You should hate me today. You should hate me tomorrow. Hate me for all the things I didn't do for you. Right. That's the chorus. That's the entire. It's like, hate me in ways. Yeah, ways hard to swallow. Hate me so you can finally see what's good for you. I mean, that's some shit when you are realizing the shit that you're putting somebody else through. And it's your own fucking mother. Mm-hmm. And he's pretty much just saying, I'm a piece of shit. And you deserve a better person for a son than what I've provided. And, along with the melody, it's a really in tune with the lyrics.
I always remember the bridge, I think it is, when he's like, And with a sad heart, I say goodbye to you and wave.
Kicking shadows on the street for every mistakes that I had made. And like a baby boy, I never was a man until I saw your blue eyes crying and I held your face in my hand. And then I fell down yelling, make it go away. Just make a smile come back and shine just like it used to be. And then she whispered, how could you do this to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the deepest songs I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Mama's boy too. And I remember for the first time when I heard this song, it really made me, I was going through some shit with my own mother where I had barely talked to, in like 2 years, I maybe talked to her twice in like the 2 year span. And that's when I heard this song right around that time. So I was dealing with some shit with my own mother. So I had some kind of relation, but it wasn't to this degree.
Right.
I definitely didn't feel like I was a horrible son by any means.
Right.
It was just one of those things that kind of made me reevaluate my relationship with my mother.
Sure.
And it definitely did. I definitely changed my actions. Realized it was petty of me. She's my mother. And
yeah.
even though we had our differences and I had some grudges and I had all the right in the world to have some resentment to some of these things I was feeling, didn't mean I needed to be...
You're entitled to your feelings. Doesn't mean you get to be an asshole about it.
Exactly. But yeah, he's known to be that emotional writer, and the dynamics too. He doesn't just write sad shit, but he's good at it. Because for the most, primarily throughout his life, he's been dealing with depression and bipolar disorder and anxiety. Yeah. And so along with being, drugs and alcohol over the course of his life and probably the medication that he's supposed to be taking and stuff like that. I mean, therapy, whatever. He's gone through shit up in his head, but he's known for taking those demons and throwing them out on the stage. And that brings me to one of my favorite songs as well, lyrically. And I think the reason why I like the song is because he's saying exactly that. And the song is For the Love, and he's saying why he does what he does. And this is off an album called Any Man in America. This entire album is about his horrible divorce from his wife. Now, he had a baby girl, and pretty much his wife had an affair with some guy while he was out doing his thing. Sure. And this entire album is about that, pretty much. It was like a therapy album. You felt it. He was telling you. He has a song called Flight from Lincoln to Minneapolis, where he's pretty much saying, is like, I was getting on a plane to go kill a man. And it's like, I blacked out. I was in the airport. I was ready to do this. Yeah. And, I mean, it's some shit. And he doesn't hold back. He doesn't hold any punches or pull any punches. If he says something, he's saying it because that's what's on his mind. He reminds me a lot of Eminem when it comes to that. There's no filter. I'm not holding back. This is my art. This is my expression. This is what I'm thinking and even feeling. It doesn't mean I'm going to do something about it. Right. It's just this is the art form. This is how I don't go do those things. Right. But the song For the Love really put it in perspective for who he is as a writer, what he's doing it for. And the opening song starts with a recording of Justin talking to his little girl over the phone. Oh, yeah? And pretty much his little girl's like, was like, well, I want you to come home. It's like, I don't want to stay with mommy. I want to be with you. And Justin is pretty much like, well, and he's like, I can't. I'm sorry, but your mommy loves you very much. Right. And then it goes into the song where he's like, complications of the relationship. It's hard to talk and this and that. But it's the chorus that says it all, where he goes, I do it for the love. I do it for the rain. I do it for the passion. I do it for the pain. I do it for the rush. I do it for the doubt. I do it for my daughter, man, because she's what I'm about. I do it for my mom. I do it for my dad. do it for the sanity. It's hanging from a thread. I do it for the audience who understands the need. Standing on the stage, cut the shit and let it bleed. So he's doing this stuff. He's making this art. He's making this music not just for, once again, not just for other people to connect. This is the way that he gets his sanity back. Yeah. This is the way that he's able to control his emotions, control those demons, you know, put them on a leash, is by making this kind of art form and putting it out there. Yeah. It's more for him, less for the audience. You know, I mean, it's obviously both. It's a give and take. You know, he wouldn't be where he was if it wasn't for those people who obviously can relate. And I think that the last part about that, I do it for the audience who understands the need, stand on the stage, cut the shit and let it bleed, was a very dark, vivid, but appropriate lyric for exactly what he's talking about. You know, when you're dealing with people who cut themselves and like, you know, they want to release. I swear almost everybody I've ever heard that's tried to commit suicide in some sort by, you know, slicing a wrist, they want to release. They want this pain to end kind of thing. Yeah. And that's his version of that. And once again, he doesn't hold back. He's not afraid to say what's on his mind. Now, saying that, going to one of my favorite songs, which is one of the darkest songs I've ever heard. And this is off the album Approaching Normal, which has Dirt Room that you're talking about.
Right.
Is their last track on this album. Say It was also their single on that album too. But their last track on this album, which was called The End.
Okay.
And my God, I first heard this and I was like, what the fuck did I just listen to? It's like, is this okay? Like, did somebody have to call the cops on this guy? Like, is this... But it was brilliant. It was amazing, and it was a story. I mean, he is telling a story. It's not a poem necessarily. Like, he's literally... I mean, it is. He rhymes and stuff, but he's literally telling you a story. And I just love this song. I want people who are into some dark shit, especially, to listen to this song to get understanding. And I'm going to give you the quick notes. So the song is about him standing outside on the lawn barefoot, staring through his window at a place that he used to call home.
Okay.
Watching his wife or ex-wife with another man. And then they move themselves up into the bedroom and he has to go see what's going on. So he sneaks into his old house and he talks about how it's like, oh, this used to be my living room, Mick. And then he hears the moaning, bouncing and clapping off every wall, you know, every wooden wall room. And then he pops into the room while they're doing it, and he just bursts in and pretty much is like saying, he's like, I know I'm not supposed to be here kind of thing. It's like, but I just had to see, you know, this new man.
Right.
Who you're fucking because you've both been fucking me. And it's like, so he's like, you know, he's like, why don't you do this last thing together as a pair while I cover your eyes or blindfold you or fucking stare or whatever. And he pretty much pulls out a gun and shoots the guy. With an amazing rhythm into this entire song too. And then he pretty much says like, so I was like, I didn't necessarily he's like, or whatever. He's like, I didn't mean to alarm her, but I figured, you know, we could end this. So I'll make it, you know, quick and painless, and does it to the woman. And then the last bit of the song goes, now think about your answers, lying face down on the bed. I cocked the pistol, pulled the trigger, and all I saw was red. I gently stroke her arm as she lies lifeless on her back, then placed the barrel in my mouth, and all I saw was black.
Damn.
I love that last line. That line inspired me to write my short story, Hit Me With the Double.
Oh, okay.
That last line was, I then placed the barrel in my mouth, and all I saw was black. That's what inspired me to write my short story, Hit Me With the Double.
Damn.
And you've read that story.
Yeah. A long time ago, but I read it.
And that's what inspired that. It's a fucking, man, it's an intense song, but it's good. But that just shows you the kind of writer that Justin is and how he doesn't hold back from his emotions. And then he can go write a beautiful, amazing song like Home, which is off his Sway album. And it's about finding like a family and holding on to that family. Yeah. So coming from something where he's had hardship, a horrible divorce, probably custody battles, going through all this shit. And then the reasoning for that was his wife pretty much says, you weren't there for us. And he goes, because he was out on the road living his dream. He's like, well, how do you think your fancy house got paid for and all the shit that you have? Right. I've been doing that. What have you been doing, kind of thing? So, and this is what you're going to repay me for? Yeah. And I, from the sounds of it, I kind of take on his side. But then again, it's
kind of what happened with Christopher Titus, too.
Oh, God. His original life. I don't remember. Oh, I completely forgot that guy existed. Yeah. He was pretty decent, too.
Went through a pretty bad divorce, and his wife, I guess, cheated on him a lot. And then he talks about it in one of his stand-ups. He's like, she came in and said that for the last, like, however many years, she's like, he beat me and beat the children, like, every day. And he's like, and I wanted to look at the judge and be like, can you turn your head for, like, 5 minutes so I can make her not a liar?
It's pretty bold to say.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he actually said that, but I think it was, like, what he wanted to say.
Yeah. They definitely felt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then Justin writes a song about, it's called Home, and it's a beautiful song. It's one of my favorite songs by them as well, because it's on the lighter side of the spectrum. It's more positive, and the once again, it's the chorus that kind of does it, where he says, oh, man. Because we'll be dancing in the kitchen in the pale moonlight. Only care in the world is that our kids are all right. Daddy loves mama and mama loves him. Tomorrow we get to do it all over again. Smile. So smile at me, baby. Take my breath away. With the good Lord willing, I'll happy to say that daddy loves mama and mama loves him. Tomorrow we get to do over again. So it's a beautiful song. Very, very well written. But Justin is just one of those fucking guys that he's gone through some shit in his life. Yeah. He knows how to put it down on paper, and he knows how to put it out into music in a way that just nobody else does.
Sure.
I can't compare him to anybody else. There's nobody does music like he does. And diverse too, like the dynamic and the music range itself. Everything from like this kind of heavier grungy rock to some weird light alternative rock. Alternative rock is a pretty bland way of describing their music, I guess, putting them in a genre. But if you had to put them in a genre, that would make sense. Into the Ocean is a good song. It's a very excellent song. Very story-like. And Blue October, I just have such a fascination, almost an envious attachment to them, because I would love to be able to write like that. I'm amazed this dude hasn't written a book. Like, he has obviously things to say because he's still making music. They just released a new hit this year, and it's pretty solid. But man, I would love to be able to write musically like he does. So yeah, Justin,
right on,
from Blue October, and it's not for everybody, but I freaking love those guys. Like, I think that, he's the primarily one I had to talk about. It's really tough because I have so many people I could talk about that really stick with me and influence with me. I've talked about Tim McMorris before.
Sure.
And he's a, North Carolina. Yeah, he's from North Carolina, and he's a independent solo artist who's done a lot of his own stuff. He's like produced and written his own stuff, and I think that he's one of the most positive writers I've listened to, and he does it all too. He goes from hip hop to like a folk acoustic, like his song "Overwhelmed," which is a song about his wife.
Right.
How overwhelmingly in love he is with his wife. It's incredible. I love that. And then he has some songs that really take some seriousness, like "Hurting Land," which is a slow acoustic song that just, like, especially now, it's very, very poignant for what's going on right now in our society. And it just hits the mark. And then he goes in to do some hip hop stuff, which I love. And I don't know, he's very, very versatile. Very versatile. He's very lyrical too. He's talented as fuck because he's doing everything himself.
Sure.
But one of the songs that really hit me was "Music's My Life," because he says exactly what I felt for the longest time. And one of the lines that really hits me is like, I got angry because it didn't sound the same, when I tried to put it out there as it did in my head.
Yeah.
And the frustration as an artist myself, is when you see something so clear in your head, and for whatever reason, there's this barrier, this veil that just blocks the tangibleness, being able to tangibly put it, whatever it is out there.
Yeah.
It's the worst. It's like writer's block, but for like everything.
Right.
The best way I can think of it is you sit at a computer, you don't have anything to say, you don't have anything to write, except for you do have it in your head, and then you just can't get it out the way you want it to. And or even worse, it's like those people who have speech impediments who know what they're supposed to say and they just can't. They physically just can't.
Right.
It's kind of how I feel about, like, a lot of my art. And so that song particularly really struck a chord with me because I've always had an attachment to music. And I wish I was a better musician. I wish I focused more on music, but I just got too many things going on in life, and I don't have that emotional connection that I used to have with music. And Kaylee gives me shit for this. She says, well, it's because you're happy.
Yeah.
And it's true. When I was in a darker time or a darker place, that's what did it for me. That's where I put all my focus, my energy, even though it was still up there. Like, the best shit I've ever written was when I was depressed. Yeah. And
I think Patton Oswalt has a bit about how being as a comedian, he's like, I'm happy, and it's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Because as a comedian, like, there's nothing worse than a happy comedian.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly it. Like, I'm happy, and it's terrible. Only in my art.
Right.
It's terrible for my art.
Yeah.
Because it's really tough to be emotionally...
Everyone talks about tortured artists. They don't talk about the happy ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember if it was the Wallflowers or it was one of those 90s bands like that whose singer killed himself.
Oh, the Wallflowers are still around. So
it's not the Wallflowers. What is that? Dishwalla?
Dishwalla?
Maybe it's Dishwalla?
Counting Blue Cars? That was a song I remember from Dishwalla.
I can't remember. One of those types of artists, their singer, pretty much killed himself. And he had made a statement. He's like, well, I can't be sad all the time.
Right.
It's like it takes too much of a toll. And I think he killed himself. So.
Well, the Bobby McFerrin, the guy that wrote Don't Worry, Be Happy, he fucking committed suicide.
Right.
Which is just ironic.
Yep. It's tough. But I think that... I think that's why I lean towards those sadder songs in general. I like my slow, sad, emotionally driven songs because that's what I connect to is emotion. I've always prided myself in being very, very organically empathetic. I always have been as far as I know, and it's essentially why I'm not a hunter.
Yeah.
I can hunt if I need to. If I need to go out and get some food to survive, oh yeah, I won't question. I won't bat an eyelash. But I don't need to, so I don't want to go kill an animal because I feel bad.
I don't have it in me to like. I tried hunting when I was younger because I lived in Montana, and that was just something you did, and I couldn't do it. I probably at this point in my life am more likely to harm a person than I am an animal.
Yeah. Yep.
That's me, and that's.
I've joked around about that.
Yeah.
I'd rather hurt somebody else than hurt an animal. Like, I get annoyed at my cats, and I kick them around all the time. Not like kick them across the room or anything. They're always under my feet.
Yeah.
Right? Especially Puma. Puma's always, Aspen's not so bad. Puma's always under my feet, and at least 2 or 3 times a day, I kick him in the head, or I step on his toes or his tail or something, because he won't leave my feet.
Gimli has gotten to the point where he knows if I'm wearing my boots to stay out of the way. Like if I put on my boots and then try to go pet him, he runs away because I've stepped on him enough times that like he knows that those hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Puma doesn't listen or doesn't learn. At this point, I've probably created brain damage. I've actually been concerned because there are times I've just walked and I can't keep looking at my feet all the time I walk.
Right.
And there are times I've kicked them pretty hard. I'm like, oh my God, Puma. It's like, are you okay? But God damn it, cat. Like, get away from my feet. So I definitely had a couple other artists, but I think for the most part, I think Justin's the only one I wanted to talk about today. So I'm going to have to save it for later for another time. Cause
that's legit.
I would have to probably narrow down a couple artists that I would want to talk about again. It's also tough because like I'm looking at artists and songwriters as a whole.
Yeah. Not
just a couple songs I think are just insanely amazing or I've connected with. So it's a lot harder to
for sure
narrow it down. I mean, yeah, but Blue October for sure. Justin, some of the most real shit that I've ever heard. I used to hate him too. When I first heard him, the only song I liked was "Hate Me," and
most definitely,
my ex-girlfriend at the time loved him. And I think that's why I hated him. It's because I just didn't like her.
Fuck her.
Yeah. I mean, we were dating, but I didn't really like her.
Right. Fantastic.
And we dated for like a year. I even lived with her for a while. But her favorite band was All American Rejects. And I'm like, yeah, they should have been rejected a long time ago from America.
That's something we'll have to unpack at a different time. Right. So I think I want to say for the next music podcast, the subject I want to talk on is concept albums because I think they're fucking awesome. And so I want to start getting a list together of concept albums you want to talk about and then some that I'll talk about.
Oh, geez. I don't even know if I have any. That I can't think of any. I would have to probably do some research because the only one I can really think of at the moment would be Coheed and Cambria. Right. But I don't listen to them.
Well, right. Yeah.
Well,
that'll be the next time we talk about music. I want to talk about concept albums and some of the ones that we know and some of the ones that we didn't realize were concept albums because there have been a couple like that.
I'm going to have to do some digging on that one for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. So that'll give us some homework to do.
I I always give myself homework.
All right. Captain Overachiever over there.
I did have we can save it for next time. I did find those some other questions that I had, and we'll have to talk about next time. Can I put like soundtracks on that for concept? I'm just kidding. The whole thing is kind of
say like that's. I think that's kind of cheating.
It is. That's why I found a loophole.
Whatever.
Yeah, I think that'd be
cool.
We gotta do our shuffle.
Oh,
our
yes.
random shuffle list, and we gotta do the album. And unless there's anything else you want to talk about,
no. I think
it's about 12 o'clock, so it's probably the shortest podcast we've had. Well, pretty close.
We're still approaching 20 minutes or 2 hours, 20 minutes. What the fuck is wrong with me?
It's an hour and 38 minutes right now. So it's the shortest one we've had.
Yeah. Let's see. That's what happens.
Somebody has to go home so soon.
Don't you judge me because I have to work in the morning and shit.
Yeah, I don't. Well, kind of. I mean, I got to babysit. Be a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah. All right. What do you got? You go first this time. I went first last time.
Want me to go first? All right. So, if you don't recall, if you're at least a repeat listener and you've listened to all our stuff, we did our first music podcast. We wanted to do like a random shuffle off a playlist. Yeah. Me and Aram have two different, we have a variety of music that's very similar, but we also have a variety of music that's different. It was just one of those things where we wanted to randomly pick a selection from our own playlist of whatever sort, whatever format, and just kind of talk about that song if we have something to say about it, what it means to us, whatever it is, why it's on our playlist, essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
So I wasn't prepared to go first, so just give me a moment here.
Well, I can go first if I have to.
Well, I want to make sure that I'm not going to... Okay, so my random song is Revis.
Okay.
And it's 7. The song 7.
Not my favorite Revis song, but...
So... This was one of those songs where it kind of went into that depressing, sad song stage of mine and stuff that I like. The state that I was in when this album came out was in high school, and I was pretty depressed. I was depressed for a long time, to be honest. And so I think it was just one of those things where Caught in the Rain was their big single, and I heard that, and then I heard it on, it was the Daredevil soundtrack. And then somehow they had 2 songs on that album that I was like, I really like, Spin and 7.
Yep. I remember 7. I liked 7. It wasn't, of the 3, it wasn't my favorite. Mm-hmm. Spin was probably my favorite. Caught in the Rain probably more memorable because it's on so much stuff, and it was their big hit. At 7, I remember, and it was the 3rd song that I really actually kind of enjoyed, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the other ones.
Well, it sounds like it's just like a breakup song, or essentially maybe this somebody passing of a song. Sure. Whatever it is, it's some kind of loss.
Right.
And so it definitely fit appropriate for the time that I was, listening to it. But I think that's all I can really say. I think one reason why I like the song is it's a sadder, softer melody.
Yeah. It hit all the right notes at the right time.
Yep. And I think the lyrics are pretty on point for when I needed it.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. That's all that needs to be said about it, really.
I mean, I will say, reading the lyrics right now, the last verse I can see, very excellent. It's very, probably exactly what caught me is, can I be the same? The rain is falling. The rain is falling now. Today we're leaving. Our souls are calling now. The stars on his right, holding 7 right now. The rain is. Very poetic. I like it.
I don't think I've ever read the lyrics to it.
Yeah. It's quick. Not a lot to it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that's all I got to say about that one.
For sure.
What about you?
So the song that I pulled up it's by Big Gigantic. The song's called Good Times Roll. And so Big Gigantic is an EDM group. I guess they're actually categorized as an electronic dance act. But it's a drummer and a saxophonist.
Oh, that's interesting. Like a real drummer?
Like a
actual house kit? Or
consisting of drummer Jeremy Salkin and saxophonist and producer Dominic Lally. So it also features Grizz, who I'm not entirely...
Grizz?
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with. I think he's an EDM artist.
Okay, it sounds familiar.
But... So it's a nice upbeat song. I really dig the saxophone in it. It was kind of what caught me. I'm a huge fan of this like weird trend of like not obscure instruments, but like instruments you don't generally hear coming back into certain bits of music. Like say I think it's really cool they include saxophone in this one. Saxophone has made a comeback in a couple different areas, like a couple metal bands from Australia that I've been listening to have saxophone in them for some strange reason, and I just fucking love the way they include them. But anyway, so Good Times Roll is just a nice upbeat song. It's got a good beat. There's not a lot to talk about. I mean, it's just a fun song to listen to, and it just kind of makes me a little happier when I listen to it, I guess. So that's kind of what I got for that.
And what was the song called?
It's, Good Times Roll by Big Gigantic. I've played the song for you before. I think you were over at one of our old apartments, and I think Liam was dancing to it.
Yeah.
One time when you were over.
Big Gigantic.
Yeah.
I think they've got ginormous.
Right. They've got a number of albums out, so they're pretty big from what I can tell. I don't have a lot of their stuff, but I'll listen to some of it. All right.
I think that's the problem, like especially the older I get.
Yeah.
Man, I have to have something in front of me to like reference off because I'm picking up new music. I don't remember music like I used to, or albums or something like in high school. I have to look at them, but I can tell you. And I have like 3 CD cases, so I have like at least 200 or 300 CDs. In those cases, I could tell you every single CD that I owned.
Right.
And I can't do that now. I couldn't do that if I tried.
Right.
So, and not to mention, I could tell you at least a majority of those tracks on those albums, like pretty much on point. So, but nope, nah. The older I get, the more music I accumulate, some of that shit's got to go.
Yeah, no shit.
So,
shall we generate our album?
Yeah, let's do it. I have it up already.
Go.
So, once again, we did this on our last one. We're going to do this random generator for music album, and we're going to sit there and we're going to listen to it like we did for Abbey Road. We'll
try to broaden our horizons a little bit here.
And
eventually we'll start doing, as soon as when we run out of movies and shit to talk about, we'll probably do that too.
Right.
That'll be a while off yet.
That will be a while. Like me and Aram can talk about music endlessly, but if we're not like able to play a lot of music, we kind of go, okay, well what do we talk about now?
Right.
Because we're more of like, hey, I want to show you the song.
Yeah.
And we have the same thing about films, but the difference about film is I feel like we have more to say about films.
Well, and
I don't really know
so many
if that's
times
correct.
we go, oh, I remember this movie. Have you seen this movie because of that one?
Yeah.
And it's like the rabbit hole. Like I find myself jumping down rabbit holes where it's like on Spotify, because that's what I listen to music through. I'll like look at an artist and then all of a sudden it gives you like 12 artists that like, oh, because you like them, you may like these 12. And I have to go, okay, well now I have to fucking figure those guys out. Right. And then I get other lists from them, and it turns into a time suck for me. Like
I essentially call it, like, since YouTube came out, it's the YouTube thing is the same thing. YouTube is horrible, especially for insomniacs. I think it was built specifically for insomniacs. Oh, you can't sleep? Well, just go onto YouTube. Well, that's to keep you awake forever.
YouTube is nowadays infomercial.
Yeah.
Like, it's Fight Club when he's sitting up at night and he can't sleep and all he's watching is infomercials. That's all you had.
Yeah. Oh, I bought everything from the catalog.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Actually,
unless you had HBO and Skinamax, you had nothing else to watch.
No. I remember I was so in tune with music that I would sit at the computer in high school. I'd sit at the computer and just like listen to music or I would do that exact same thing. I would just look for music no matter where it was. Somehow I was able to find more music, or this related artist or whatever. I remember I did that with MySpace. That was something I did like about MySpace was I found a lot of artists through MySpace. Like Red was one of them. I told you that story about and back in MySpace. But I used to sit there and write lyrics, and I need some influence,
Yeah.
And that was kind of what I did for the majority. And I'd go upstairs and when my, dad and mom came home and kicked me out of the computer room so they can go to bed, I'd go upstairs and I'd watch movies.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
All right, let's do this.
Let's see what we got.
So we're going to do a random list generator. So we're doing it from randomlist.com, and we're going to do one album. Or do you want to do more?
We'll see. If we do more, then we each take one and have to actually give our own fucking reviews on it. I think is how we got to do it.
Oh, man. Let's stick with one for right now. We'll see.
That might be something we jump into later, but let's stick with one for right now.
All right, here it is. Boom. Casey Musgraves, Golden Hour.
Fuck, I already can tell I'm not going to like it.
It's some chick with a, blue sky, and she's holding a fan,
Oh, Christ. It's a country album. Oh, God.
Maybe.
Damn it.
Doesn't look like a country artist. But yeah, so once again, we will be listening to Casey Musgraves, and that's Musgraves. And then the album is called Golden Hour. So yeah. Got anything else you want to say, Aram? Before we wrap this up?
No, I think I'm pretty caught up, I think. Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, well, future things is still looking at trying to set up a website or an email address, I should say. Maybe not a website yet. We're not there yet.
We're not that big.
But we're still going to look at setting up a email address. So you guys, if you end up wanting to get a hold of us or comments or whatever, advice,
positive feedback is always welcome.
Yep.
Negative feedback can go fuck itself.
Yep. And as soon as I figure that shit out, I'll let you know. We'll post it up. Otherwise, you can try to find us on Facebook. I did set up a little Facebook thing at bandbbanterbros, and you can try to leave comments there. I don't know how. I don't know shit about Facebook.
I think you can.
Should be able to. So
it's kind of going the way of the dodo at this point.
Right? I'll tell you what. If you can figure it out, go ahead and do it. I'll
check it. Hoping we can figure out how to get to them.
Right. I check it at least once a day. So
word.
Yeah. Otherwise, catch you next time. So this is Timothy Bennett
and Aram Banyan.
And thank you for listening to B&B Banter Bros. Have a good one.
Later.